All right, what's up? What's up, swingers?
What's
Whit
going on?
is on the podcast, the Blodgett man.
Excited to be here.
The AI guys and oil and gas making all kinds of waves. Everybody asks me, who are these Infersoft guys? You heard about them, man? They're taking over the game in AI and oil and gas. All right, yeah, we'll get into all that. Corey, good to see you. We did record an episode last week. We didn't the week of NAPE. Things were too busy. We did last week. Ran into some major technical issues, so I'm seriously hoping that does not happen today and everything goes off without a hitch. But good to see you, Corey. How you been, man?
Good, man. It's good to be back. I like the weekly cadence when we got it. I know we got a full day here on the pod, so had to go get fed right. New burger spot opened up here in the Woodlands, Linkford's. Paul and his wife opened up a good spot. So if you're ever up in the Woodlands, go check out Linkford's burger joint up in Waterway. It'll set the base well, so I think I'm ready to rock and roll here with Whit and you, Jer.
Love it.
Let's go.
Love it.
And thanks for having me on the podcast, guys. Really
man,
appreciate it.
It's an honor. When you and I met, so shout out Kurt Kemmerly. Corey, I'm sure you know Kurt from Thought Trace fame.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Kurt.
Love Kurt.
Yeah, everybody.
Shout out to Kurt. I'll make sure he knows this. He's got to get a little love. Yeah.
So it's been awesome getting to know you and your partner, Hugo, over the past month or so. Full transparency, Infersoft is a Funk Futures client. Super excited about our opportunity to go to market. Corey, I tagged Max on this one, so he's getting the goods. Super pumped about that. But enough about us. Whit Blodgett, got to hit you with the best question. The hardest question first is, who are you, man? Who is Whit Blodgett?
Sure thing. Yeah, so I always tell our clients when we're just starting off, I'm the guy you call when your Wi-Fi breaks. I'm the tech nerd, the guy who worked in Silicon Valley for 15 years. But today I am the CEO of Infersoft. And we're building the first agentic decision infrastructure for oil and gas. And I think we'll get into that later. But a little bit about my background, and actually, funny enough, the background of my co-founder. He couldn't be here today because he's actually at a AAPL. I think it's a food drive, so he had to miss this for a good cause. But shout out to Hugo. So me and Hugo, both from New York. I grew up on a cow farm in New York. Not much tech up there, upstate New York, but very quickly became interested in technology and computers, and at an early age, was coding and building small computers. Educationally, my background of a master's in machine learning from Berkeley. In terms of work experience, I spent, I think 6 years at IBM Watson, and hopefully no one from IBM watches this podcast, but we'll see. Back in 2015, 2016, when all the AI chatter was kind of starting up, long before the GPT wave we're seeing now, IBM was really good at marketing and had connections with Jeopardy. So you all probably saw Watson on Jeopardy. So I was there for that, really enjoyed it, learned a lot from the team there. And while I was there, I actually got poached to go work at this startup down in Palo Alto called Landing AI. And Landing AI is headed up by this gentleman called Andrew Ng, who, if you're familiar with the world of AI, he'll come up. He actually was the first one to discover that you could train large models on GPUs. In 2006, I think he was a PhD student at Stanford. And he basically took a GPU and trained an RC helicopter to fly itself. And that was like a huge innovation back then. Now we all know GPUs run AI, but he was kind of the first guy to discover that. He went on to found Coursera, the online education company. He went on to found Google Brain, Baidu AI, really impressive guy. And it was truly an honor to work for him for 3.5 years at Landing AI, where I was his director of product. So really just managing a team of 20 machine learning engineers, back-end guys, and kind of bridging the gap between our clients who were QA, quality assurance analysts in factories. So one of our biggest clients manufactured phones in China, and we deployed vision models that would essentially inspect phones being made on a production line for cracks or scratches or that sort of stuff before they were shipped to the US to be sold. So that was a really amazing experience. And this was all, 2020, 2021. So again, the GPT wave had yet to hit. So I think we'll get all into this AI stuff. I could talk about it all day, but talking about myself and my upbringing, education, early career, that's kind of the background there. And yeah, so I'll pause and see if there's any follow-up.
Well, I got to jump in real quick, Jeremy. Would appreciate you saying you'll take the pause. I'm a little bit outnumbered here, being from Texas and South. I've got a couple
Yanks.
Northeasterners up here. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, in New York, like you said, Whit, you got the Boston numbers. Like I got a couple Northeasterners up here.
Oh, Corey,
I gotta have to watch this with this.
Oh, don't worry. Corey has some really good stories about his time that he spent in the Northeast. Corey, you want to talk about 2013 when you and I were at the same Red Sox playoff game and you didn't reach out to me? That was fun.
Look, this will have to be a very condensed version because the podcast is not about me. It's just for Whit. But yeah, we, my wife and I had our first wedding anniversary trip. We went up there. I picked a beautiful Boston, and we went through Cape, picked a place to stay out in Provincetown, P-Town, for those who know. I quickly said, hey, honey, we gotta go back to Boston. And it just so happens to be that Red Sox are in the playoffs. There's a playoff game, it's home game. It was right after all of the Watertown shooting and the bombings there with the Boston Marathon, so crazy time. So we went back there. They had first responders. But yeah, I'm there. I had no idea to even think about reaching out to Jeremy, and happens to be we were both at the game.
We were both on like the first base side, right field side grandstand, like probably 40 feet apart, and didn't know. And I think 5 days later, Corey's like, man, I love your stadium, man. This was so dope. And he sent this picture. I go, what day was that? He's like, oh, this was Friday. I go, dude, I was there. What section were you in? If the Red Sox are going to go on a run, or I can feel they're going to go on a run, 2013, obviously a special year because of what happened in April at the Boston Marathon with the bombing. And that was a special team and overachieving team that won the World Series, coming off of a last place finish, and then last place finishes in 2014 and 2015. So the ultimate outlier, and so it shows what can happen when a team really has magic and culture and teamwork and bring it together and kind of shocking everybody to win the World Series. But that was fun. And Corey, if you do go back to Cape Cod, I'm guessing you're probably not going to pick the gay marriage capital of the world, P-Town. Beautiful place, but I don't think you knew that coming in. And then you're looking around when you got there and saying, this is a little bit different. What exactly is that? Okay. All right. Provincetown. Got it.
Yeah. I'll leave it at that.
Sorry,
we won't be going back there, but that's all good. You had to. That's fine. It's fine.
So wait, I want to go back to.
Anyways, we move on.
Yeah, your upbringing again. So upstate New York kid. You went to high school in the Boston area. Is that what took you out there, or where'd you go to high school? And then you just really glossed over. Didn't even mention the fact that you went to Princeton. We're gonna talk about that a little bit. Yeah. But where'd you go to high school? And
try not to bring it up.
Talk to me about high school and what you, how you felt about Princeton your time there.
Yeah, sure thing. And the Boston thing, I was born in Boston, lived there until I was about 7 or 8, just in time to see the Red Sox, to become a Red Sox and Pats fan. So me and Jeremy really nerded out on that first time we met. And also, I moved to New York just in time so that the Red Sox beat the Yankees in the, I guess it was semifinals or something. And so I showed up at this school. Yeah, in '04. Yeah. And so I showed up at school and was pumped, wearing my Red Sox hat. And like all the kids on the playground were like beating me up. They're like, screw you, man. We're all Yankee fans here. So that was a really hard landing for a kid relocating to New York. But I was okay, because what you can't tell on a podcast is I'm actually 6'6". So I was an awkward giant, so I was resilient. They didn't beat me up too much. But yeah, so high school, went to this school actually in Jersey, Lawrenceville School, shout out. And while I was there, I think the defining thing about me was my rowing career. So people hear rowing, they're like canoes, and this is like the shell. So it's like kind of the Olympic rowing you would see,
Yeah.
where you got like 8 giants in a boat pulling on a single oar. Head of the Charles in Boston is a big one.
Oh yeah.
So I got first week on campus. The coach walked up to me and said, "Hey, like you're gonna row on my team." I said, "All right, cool." Put me on an erg, and I rode the second best time out of the senior class, and people were just kind of like, "What the hell? Like this is interesting." And so that was kind of just what I did, is I just trained and rode, 15, 20 hours a week. And my sophomore year, I got tapped to go join the Junior Olympic team. And so we spent the summer training, and then we went over to Czech Republic, and we competed against, all the big countries in the Junior Olympics are the Germans, the Italians. Croatians randomly are really good as well. There's some giants over there, but I think they lie on their birth certificates, and we were actually rowing against 30-year-olds.
It's like the Little League World Series, right?
Yeah, yeah. So
That
full
dude's
gear.
not 13. Look at him.
Right. So that was a blast, and made a lot of friends there, and really learned how to kind of thrive in a team dynamic through that. And then because I was actually younger than most of the guys on the team, and this is 8 guys get selected each year, plus the coxswain who steers the boat, so 9 of us. We came in 6th. The U.S. was never really that good compared to these other countries. So we came in 6th, and we were kind of bummed about that. But me and 2 other guys were young enough that we wouldn't be over 18 the next summer, so we knew we were going to come back and race again the next summer. And so my junior summer, we went to France. The Junior Olympics were held in France. And it was kind of looking to be the same thing. Like we were kind of like 5th, 6th, barely made it into the finals. Based on how you're ranked in the finals is kind of which lane you get on this. It's about a mile race for people who don't know.
And
It's
I'm
about
guessing you want to be like like swimming. You want to be on the inside, so you don't get
Exactly.
all of the waves and things pushing you to the outside.
Right. And so we were all the way on the outside. Total, like it was like the Germans, the British, the Italians in the center, like they were the main event. They just smoked us time wise. And we're about getting ready to go. And the guy in the stroke seat, the guy in front of me who is kind of sets the pace, looks at us and he's like, just go with it. And we're like, what are you talking about? He's like, don't worry about it. Like, just go with it. And so normally in a race, you start at a really high rate. So like they call it strokes per minute. You'll start at like a 40, 45 strokes per minute.
That's crazy.
And then you kind of base it out at like a 30 strokes per minute. So that's like kind of and then at the end you sprint. And so, we take off, we're at like a 45, and then it's 2,000 meters. So about 500 meters in, everyone else drops to a 30, and we just sit at the 45. And people are like, oh, these idiots, they're going to burn out. And
Right.
get halfway through the race, we're just still, we measure in boat lengths. We're still 2 or 3 boat lengths above the field. And it's a kind of like the tactic is kind of a, pull down the pants and run away type thing. Like you kind of like freak them out by being like, are these guys out of their minds? They're not gonna be able to hold this the whole race. They're gonna fall apart in the last 200 meters. And so the other boats kind of started getting shaky, and a few started kind of catching their oars in the water and slowing down a lot. But the Germans, the ever reliable Germans, continued to gain on us and get closer and closer and closer, and we're getting more and more tired. And we ended up winning that race and winning the gold medal for the U.S.
Yeah.
in 2010.
There we go.
So happy to end the story. But I think it's that's something that really stuck with me throughout my personal life and my career is really, nothing's done until it's done. And even if the odds aren't looking good, and we think about this all the time when we look at companies like Inveris, they have all the data, they have all the users, they have all the money, and we're entering a time, especially with AI and all the things it's doing for us as a company operating, where we feel like as a team of 8 people, we can take on a company that has 8,000 people or 800 people. So that's really been a defining moment in my high school career, to answer your question, Jeremy.
That's fantastic. Corey, you ever hit the rower? Concept two, the erg, anything like that?
Maybe at the gym just for a 3-minute warm up. Get the back loose, the shoulders and everything, little heart rate up. I don't know though. I think Whit kind of just pitched himself. Like we're kind of in this founder led kind of series, right? Like this is great, but we always were talking about like, hey, we're eventually gonna have a series where we have athletes that come on, whether they're in here in our space or they've gone into business to other things, and how they can bring all that together. This was kind of a hard one to top. I mean, we got a gold medal guy coming and found letter. What is this, 4th, 5th episode? Like, we haven't even talked about Infersoft, dude, and we're dropping this stuff. That's awesome, though. That's super cool.
Bro went to an Ivy League college. He won a junior Olympic gold medal. He runs an AI company. Pretty soon, they're just going to name you God, I think.
No, sure enough. It's funny,
That's dope.
I was a athletic recruit to Princeton, so my SATs were nothing to brag about. Certainly not the smartest guy, and so come off my high school career of being this like great athlete and all this stuff, and then get to this campus and like everyone's like a Rain Man. Everyone's so smart, and so I kind of went through 4 years, but I was like, wow, like I got really nothing to show here. Like I don't have much to offer. So it was kind of like super high, and then Princeton was actually kind of like middle to low for me, where I was kind of just surrounded by these people who worked so hard, super type A, very competitive on grades and everything, and I just wanted to hang out and row and have a beer or two. But we made it through and learned some good lessons through that as well, and met some great people, and ended up kind of getting me to where I was today, at least. So yeah.
Well, I think you and I know, and Jeremy, you had a very similar trajectory through college yourself. But you look back, right? And I think we could all agree that everyone has their path and how that path occurs. How you manage that in that 4 years and you grow up yourself, right? Can take you so many different ways. And just the people you connect with, you grow friendships with, right? I'm sure with some of those guys, back in Facebook and what they were doing, like, are you in the right place, the right time? Are you there with the right people? Are you connecting with them? Are you doing everything you can to take care of yourself, obviously on your grades, and stay on top as best you can? But there's so much more to it, and you're just figuring yourself out and you're growing up. Now look at yourself, right? Like, you've got a lot of things that some of these people will look back on and they've worked really hard, and they're also saying, man, I've been busting my ass, I've been doing this. Sure, I have this, but you've got a lot of check boxes, man, that a lot of people aren't even putting on the checklist. Let's start there. So,
yeah, dude, you're
and you're in your 30s, man. So you've got a lot to look forward to.
Take it easy.
A lot to look forward to at school.
Yeah. So yeah, I want to jump in with a general commentary around college and university in 2026, because I've been thinking a lot about this. My kids are older than yours, right? I have a daughter who's almost 16. She's a sophomore. She takes all AP courses and IB courses, and she's got a weighted 4.1 GPA. Like, I went to Brandeis, mom went to Duke. We're Jewish. There's a lot of emphasis on education in our family, and we're not going to spare expense if she wants to go to a private school out of state or a public school out of state. I'd love for her to go to CU Boulder. It's a great school. It's right down the road. It's a beautiful campus, but we'll see where she wants to end up. I think a lot of people in this sort of like hustle porn culture are sort of like, you don't need college. You can just start a TikTok page. You can start a company. You don't, the playing field has been leveled, and I don't disagree with that. But I think that college now has taken on a greater importance than ever because of the ability for people to develop social skills and coexist with others, right? I don't know what career paths are going to look like with what AI is going to take over the world. And Whit, I am curious, like, what is AI going to look like in 5 years, 10 years? Because, I mean, you've said to me in 3 weeks, like your pitch has changed because of what's happening behind the scenes as far as compute and AI and the complexity of ML. But I think I'm going to really encourage my kids to really sharpen their social skills.
Yeah, it's really funny. I think we've lived in this world where you got to learn a skill, you got to fit this job, you got to get this degree. And I think when it comes to things like surgeons and doctors and that sort of stuff, 100% true. I don't want someone who's vibe coded their M degree operating on me. But when it comes to pretty much everything else, I think we're in a really exciting time at a serious inflection point of, knowledge where it's available to everyone. And we saw this a little bit with things like Coursera, where you could take a class, but now you're in a place where these models can essentially teach you anything. And, actually jumping to kind of I know part of this conversation is about reflections and advice. And, the first thing I had on there was, get out there, make friends, be social, be human, right? The only thing we have in this AI world is our humanity. And so, that's the thing that we have, through evolution, through design, whatever, been essentially, tuned to do, right? And so, if you have that, you're going to be in a really great place no matter what happens to knowledge work, no matter what happens to the world. Like, you're going to have that community, and you're going to feel good doing it because you'll have friends as well. You'll be able to provide value because you're good at talking to people, but you'll also have a network and a community. And even in the past 2 years, getting to know people in oil and gas, getting to know people in the tech side, getting to know people in the land world has been awesome. So I went to NAPE 2 weeks ago, and it was fantastic. I was able to, it felt like going to high school prom, saw everyone I knew, just kind of shot the shit and really enjoyed it. But to the root of your question, how should parents be thinking about this? I have a 1-year-old daughter. And so, I've been thinking about this a lot, and I kind of have I feel like I have a good read on what the next 5 years might look like. I don't think anyone knows. But right now, the present thing is that you can talk to AI and say, what can you teach me, right? I think a lot of people ask, what can AI do for me? And not enough people ask, what can I get AI to teach me to do? So, if you tell it, I'm a coder, train me to be a product manager, it knows how to do that. It'll make you assignments, it'll evaluate your results, it'll critique you. I think something that's sometimes an issue with classes of 15, 20 plus students is that people who maybe fall behind end up, really being impacted by that. And that's kind of the issue with the group teaching approach. AI doesn't have that problem. It tracks, it can know exactly what you're struggling with and create a side course for you to bring you up to speed, more than up to speed. So, anyone who wants to improve themselves and develop their career should be spending every spare hour they want to talking to AI, saying, train me up, superpower me. So that's kind of my view.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think you necessarily need, I'm with you, Jeremy, on the education piece, but I would add there's just things at your fingertips now. And if you have a level of curiosity and a level of drive, you can ask these things and you can learn it. It's at your fingertips now. And 10 years ago, 20 years ago, you could rest on your laurels, or you could say, hey, I went to these classes, or I have this piece of paper to show for it. And that gave you that advantage. Now people don't have to have that same, degree or time put in there. They can just spend the time as long as they're willing to put in the time, and the playing field gets leveled that way. But it's that level of curiosity. It's that willingness to ask the questions and refine the level of your questions, right, to help you become better. And as long as you have that willingness and desire to learn and always want to grow, then those are the people now that can really elevate themselves without needing to go spend this much money on this course or spend, this much time per semester for the next 2 years to get that qualification. They can get it much faster. So it'll be curious to see how that, and the cream's always going to rise to the top on this type of stuff. It's just giving that more disposal. So I agree with you there, Whit.
Yeah. It's exciting times.
So an AI guy, why oil and gas?
Sure thing. Yeah, so I think the first thing to mention is that my grandpa was actually an offshore engineer for Phillips back in the 70s. And actually, I'd never heard this story about my dad, but apparently he interned on a rig in OKC and there was a blowout and he jumped on the zip line and like zip lined out of there. So I was with him, through that as a future child. So I feel like, I got the exposure to oil and gas early. But no, I mean, I was a early tester of OpenAI and ChatGPT and was really impressed and blown away by it and started to ask myself, what is the world going to look like in 5 years? So where we're at today, and really saw a lot of stuff that it would help with as they hyperscaled their training. So pretty quickly started to think, where should I go and do this? And the main thing driving me was, where are the people in Silicon Valley who know what I know not going to go? So, everyone thinks that we're going nuclear in, 6 months. So oil and gas is going to go away in 6 months, which, talking to my grandpa, I knew that wasn't really the case. So I kind of used that to my advantage. I said, great, none of these people will touch this industry with a 10-foot pole. That's awesome for me. I can go into this industry and really kind of, apply the skills I've learned building machine learning platforms and systems. Yeah, so that was kind of how I came up with the idea. And then that's how I, reached out to my old buddy, Hugo, my co-founder, and he was working he was running a wireline business in North Dakota. He was living in Williston. So he was really deep in it. Yeah, I never visited him, and he understood why. You're
gonna have to give after this one. You're gonna have to give a little bit of how you and Hugo came together with that, given those two backgrounds. But anyways, keep going.
Totally. Yeah, no. So pretty much he started sending me, and I think this kind of addresses your question ahead of time. Actually, he started sending me documents. We actually started looking at well logs because my training was computer vision, vision AI. So I started thinking, I'm just going to use vision and then pair that with LLMs down the line. And so we started with well logs, but then just randomly started talking to some brokerages out of OKC where Hugo would spend his kind of, non-hitch time on down there. He had a girlfriend in OKC. So randomly started talking to a bunch of brokerages and started realizing what a mess the just kind of traded packages are. And I don't think it's any single operator or anyone's fault. It's more of just kind of an industry thing, right? You're trading around these old scanned documents. I mean, we look at 1810 leases sometimes, and the cursive I can't read, but the system picks up, and it's messy. So kind of just landed in there, and it was kind of the clearest place to start, even though we've now expanded to other areas, more regulatory, form fill, W9s, K1s, that sort of stuff. So,
yeah, I love it. I think it makes sense, and ThoughtTrace had like an early advantage in this, and then they got acquired by Thomson Reuters, and I think it's been a little bit disappointing for some people that Thomson Reuters is like, we're just going to use this for our own internal stuff. Okay, great, but like we're an oil and gas company, we bought this, we use it, it's pretty good, right, from an OCR standpoint, but it hasn't been updated since 2021, 2019. Like, what are we doing, right? So I think it's opened up the doors for companies like yours. I saw the product for the first time yesterday. I think one of the things that stood out to me that is uniquely different is the pay model. Corey, we're in this world historically in SaaS where it's the user-based, right, number of seats, multi-year agreement, some level of subscription for certain modules. It's just widely accepted, right? Whether you're selling ERP or you're selling, an open invoice or you're selling Merrick, like that's how oil and gas companies and most companies have bought SaaS. That's not how you're playing this game, Whit, right? You are taking on really a usage-based approach, which is how AI should work, right? It's how people should buy. Talk to me a little bit about that. And I'm assuming that was just sort of second nature because you come from that world. But talk a little bit about the differences in SaaS versus AI, and then people slapping AI on top of SaaS, and then the pricing model and how you guys differentiate to essentially you're paying for what you use, right? Up to a threshold.
Right. Yeah, we call it the David Buster's card approach. One of our clients called it that. You load it up with credits, you go into the arcade, you have a great time, and we say, thanks for coming, come back again. You can take your card with you, and you have those credits next time you come back. Yeah, it's really funny. I think it's, we saw software the past 20 years, the big data, the kind of mobile, the internet, early 2000s, these different phases, and they've all kind of fallen under SaaS software, right? But now we're in this world of AI, and I think what's happening is people are viewing AI as kind of a subcomponent of software. But if you look closely at some of these startups that are just absolutely crushing it, and calling OpenAI a startup after they near valued $1 trillion feels weird. They have had to rewrite the book on how to do business, and fundamentals in SaaS, in the SaaS playbook, are actually the total opposite with an AI company. And so that's been really interesting because we're kind of, and at Infersoft we're doing this as well, we're kind of writing the book as we go. Yes, we start with SaaS and we kind of think about SaaS rules, but sometimes when you look hard enough or you think about the user enough, it's the total opposite. So one of our biggest selling points is we say, hey, we don't sell you seats, we don't sell you features, we don't sell you, document storage. All that is for free. You just buy inference credits. And I should take this as a side note for the name Infersoft. It's inference software. And inference is when you ask a question of a model and it runs through and gives you an answer. And so, our goal, we measure our success by how much inference are our users running, right? And so, so we should charge for that, right? Like that's the value you're getting. You run inference, our model's done something useful for you. It's pulled out some clause, some cost deductions. It's analyzed some JOA and found some weird AMI language. It's looked at K1s, whatever. And it's then outputted some structured format from a scan, from some document, from some metadata, and it's now useful to you. So that's how we charge, and I think that's kind of a fundamental piece. So, charging for user access can misalign value for sure. But in reality, I think, you want to charge based on usage. And it actually aligns your goals with your users' goals. They want to get value. You measure value by inference. You get paid on inference. So everyone's kind of on the same page. You run more inference, your company's, getting a better data set to make strategic decisions on. So yeah, that's really been a fun model to approach. I think, another difference between SaaS and AI, to keep going with this, is, SaaS was really all about own the system of record. And Corey, you'll remember this from your Embarrass days, right? Like it's all about the data. It's all about the data mode. And I think that's a very successful SaaS playbook thing to do. But when it comes to AI, record keeping alone is weaker. The value moves towards prediction, action, and execution. So that's really where we focus as a business. And, I was talking a lot, Jeremy, about that agentic AI stuff and, how it's been impacting the business and how we think about it. Happy to jump into that in a little bit, but I'll pause there and see if that makes sense.
It does. Well, I'll just add, I think you're leading a charge in that thought. There's obviously every company that is a SaaS company being forced into having to figure out AI or how they're incorporating that. And the focus is more on the product and tech side of that, but no one's changing the model, to your point of what's the value here, right? So if our value's always been about charging for licenses and seats years and years ago, they're still taking that square peg and forcing it in the round hole of that same thought. Mm-hmm. And I think it does two things. I think it leaves from a value perspective, money on the table for the provider, right? Someone like in your seat, but to the consumer, right? It's also getting their head around it, because there could be frustration, like, why am I paying more for this? And you're not aligning, right, the value of what they're receiving for it, and it just comes across as like, oh, I feel like we're on the same side of the table now, and It's a win-win. Yeah. So your model out of the gate is just a head start to say, let's just start right there, right? And people just digest that much easier and with more of a positive sentiment as you continue your dialogue with them, right? And you and I know these larger companies that are going to do it, they can't change their pricing structures and their SKUs in their CRM software to just adjust for that on the fly. They're still figuring out what that is, but there's a lot of hoops you got to jump through.
Oh yeah.
So
that's going to create some risk, I think, for the legacy SaaS companies. And we even saw it too with Claude, co-work becoming a thing. And I think it's going to be a pretty massive game changer. Have you played around with it, Corey, at all? Claude co-work?
No, I haven't played with the co-work yet.
You need to, because you're in CRM systems and you're looking at various different contracts and things on your desktop. This is going to blow your mind. Yeah. And probably increase your efficiency by 30 or 40%. It essentially, like the account plans and things that you've had your teams create for you, Claude will just do that. It'll go into your CRM. It'll tell you when you had all of these calls and what the action was. Go out to LinkedIn, go out to the internet, grab information on these people, how you should pitch to them, where they sit in the decision cycle, recommend maybe how much budget they have to approve. Stuff that would take me like a weekend worth of work to do a single account plan, like you can do that in a few minutes now. It's nuts. Even to the point of, this is how you should talk to this person. This is what they're going to care about. And to the point of, say exactly this. All right. Like at some point, the human intervention thing has to come in. Will I necessarily say exactly that? I don't know. But it gives me a baseline of where I should go, depending on this person's title, persona, history, university, preferences around technology, anything that's available that it can grab, it grabs. It's nuts. And I'm eager to, Whit, you need to train my team up on it a little bit more, because our whole game is being in various different CRM systems and spreadsheets and trying to find out information about companies. So that is, it's going to be a major disruptor. I also wonder, like, from the credit and usage standpoint and how you guys do it, like you literally buy credits and then you spend credits based on the usage.
Right.
And if you want something to happen in real time, like I saw this yesterday on your product, I thought this was cool. It's like, well, do you want to wait an hour or two or whenever it's going to be, or do you want to spend double the credits and get this right now? Right? Because you got a meeting with the CEO in 5 minutes and you need this done. Like, sure, we can do that. It's going to cost you more, right? Because we're asking for more compute right now. I just wonder about the risk element for the company that does charge the $30,000 a year subscription for the SaaS product, and now they're going into AI, and people are using the AI like crazy.
Right.
And now your compute costs are through the roof. Like, you're going to have to come back to them and be like, well, we need you to pay more money because you used the shit out of this system. And they're like, no, we signed a contract. Like, this is just part of the contract. I don't know how that's going to be reconciled, but I think that is going to create very quick shifts, Corey, in how these SaaS companies start to price if they really want to get deeper into this AI game.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Yeah,
well, I would say, in a real quick way, it is like, it comes back to how you've priced it and the value aligns with. Because there's going to be those, to your point, Funk, that they could be charging, $125 a year for a license just for a seat. But if they figure this out, what they're really gaining is the equivalent to where they should have been paying a lot more than that.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Or, when you compare it to that license seat. But then when the pricing starts changing, right, then it's kind of saying, okay, well, maybe because of the cost of the computing side, or actually because what we're using over here at Infersoft, it doesn't have to cost as much. So some people's natural thought might be like, if I'm using this and I'm getting this much value, is that going to cost me $1 million as a small brokerage firm just for that? Well, no, it's not going to get that excessive, but the value's there. So Could be.
might.
I mean, it's really, again, what they're trying to achieve, right? And these people are comparing it to what they've been doing and the time it takes today and how fast they can get it and getting the right answers, more importantly, right? So, yeah. Sorry, what you're going on.
No. Yeah, no, I think it's a really good point. And, I think, to address this, it's hard to do because we've all been living in this SaaS mindset pretty
Of
much
course.
most of our professional careers, right? And um, the reality of what's happened, and this kind of touches on, Jeremy, you mentioned Claude Cowork, but you know, I don't think people really realize what's happened. At least in my community of friends in San Francisco, Cowork is being seen as the next milestone since the release of GPT-3, and it was released on February 5th, so about 1 month ago. AI hit its second most impactful milestone over the past 3 years. And a lot has happened in the past 3 years. So, what's so important about this release that Anthropic had? And it really is a model that is incredible, and then a system around it, which is very intelligent design on their part. And so, I'd recap. I think we talked about it briefly at the beginning, but right, like the past 3 years, AI has been pretty good at pattern recognition, right? Like pull this royalty out of a lease, finish your kid's homework, write a next nice text to whoever, that sort of stuff. But a month ago, we hit a genuine inflection point. These models aren't just finishing sentences anymore. They're making real decisions, the kind that, your team might make, you might make, and they're getting them right consistently over hundreds of steps. And the reason is simple, right? Like hundreds of billions of dollars have been poured into training these systems, these new models. And this industry sees it as increased power demand and prices, right? And
For
the
sure.
result is a non-deterministic system, i.e. a system that could hallucinate, that somehow now, with the latest iteration of, and I think OpenAI actually just released 5.4 today, and then Opus released 4.6 last month. These models are now, taking the correct fork in the road again and again across long, complicated workflows, and they're getting the right answer, right? And always landing on that right answer. So, when you start thinking about software, or what it really is, like an AI in that sense, like, this pricing, just think about the usage. It's going to be continuous, right? Like it's going to be something that's always there. You're always asking questions. You're telling it to do big jobs for you. Some people are running these AI models for 16, 20 hours a day, mainly for coding tasks. But we're not far off from you saying, hey, I want you to go break down this lease package of 40,000 leases, and I want you to chain out these titles. I want you to do these DO reports, whatever. And it's going to essentially, have everything done for you in 24 hours. But it's going to be running continuously. And so it's going to be ticking those credits through as it works through our system. And so, this seat thing, we have a world in which we don't mind if nobody ever logs onto our system again, as long as they are using the back end and the API and the MCP to process this stuff. That's fine. So I think the pricing shift is what actually how you can determine an AI company versus a software company.
Yep.
A software company
Yep.
is going to charge you seats. They're going to have an AI bot bolted on, and that's all good and great. And there's a real value to those companies and what those people are building. But if you're actually want to be running inference continuously and generating kind of, this amazing situation we find ourselves in, where these models are essentially commoditizing thought at a lower level, you know, you got to charge on a rating basis based on usage. It's like power, it's like water, right? So yeah, it's fascinating. It's going to be really interesting to see how all this stuff shakes out. But we have some strong signals on our side that this is the way people are going to be working with these models at scale. Yeah.
Yeah, what I was going to ask, and we can move on, and definitely, no secret sauce has to be shared, but, when we just talk about how people have been accustomed to the SaaS pricing model and the per user, the per license kind of thing, that's kind of made sense to everybody. And the customer, right, or the prospect just kind of accepts that. They've learned to accept it at this time. You're coming in and talking about it, and you're bringing the new age, the new wave of how to think about pricing. How has it been received? Like, are they sitting there and saying, totally makes sense. And as you're breaking this down to me in a proposal conversation, totally makes sense. Or are they like, hey, Whit, you're 2 steps ahead of me in a lot of things, but you're going to need to break this down because it's a new model for me to understand. I'm used to just signing a contract license.
How do I budget? Like, no, seriously, like, how do I budget for this? Because you know, you're going to say, well, okay, I'll say like a baseline of credits, and that's our starting point. But then they're like, but what if I use it like crazy and I spend $1 million? It's like, well, you should have gotten a lot of value out of that, right? Like that's the idea. So could the pricing get crazy? Yeah, of course, but it's based on what you did with it. Right. So I don't know. Sorry, that was a question for Whit, but I just had to jump in because I think it will create challenges around how do I budget for this? Honestly.
Yeah.
I think that could be the biggest challenge.
Absolutely. No, and I think it's both y'all raise really good points, right? Like this industry isn't known for uptaking when it comes to actual drilling and operations, this industry is the best, right? Like, what's that movie where they drill where Bruce Willis drills into a asteroid? Do you
Sixth
remember that
Sense.
one? No.
What? No.
Somebody listening will know it.
Armageddon?
It's something like that.
They take these Texan drillers and they fly them up to space. Oh, Space Cowboys. Is that what it's called?
Space Cowboy.
Yeah. Is that the one? I think so. Anyways, so very impressed with all that.
I can't believe I'm drawing a blank on this.
Well, anyways, somebody listening will know, and they can let us know in the comments. But yeah, I think when it comes to software, there's some softwares around. I won't name any, but they're tired
Come on, dude.
bad. I don't know. I hear people complain about Spotfire sometimes. I hear people complain about Embarrass's UI a bunch. It's pretty hard, and so the uptake's going to be slow. People are going to be slow, but what we're looking for is the early adopters. The people who know there's a better way. Shout out to Erica Honeycutt out of Denver. Her company has been a huge proponent of ours, and we've been working together on doing some really cool projects with her clients. And she's just, originally she was charging by hour for her team, and then she was like, you know what? I don't need to charge by hour. I can charge by document. And so that flexibility now has resulted, and her clients also who trust and know her well, we're okay with that as well. And so, I think from the outside in, it might seem like, people are, resistant to this sort of pricing change, but we just closed a deal in 10 days, which was the fastest close we've done. I don't think I tell you about that, Jeremy. And the actual closing piece for them was the pricing. They said, this is awesome. The next person's trying to charge me a flat fee for, per year, and they can only do 10,000 documents a year. With us, they're like, you can do, a couple 10 or 100 million pages of documents in the year, but then also, you don't kind of hold a gun to our head and say, you have to do it by this time, or you have to pay for these additional features, or else you can't do that. So
Interesting.
That's kind of been my experience there. I also think that.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Jeremy, please.
No. You go. You weren't done. Go ahead.
I mean, I was gonna dive into. I think we've kind of maybe not covered exactly. Some people might be like, and I think it's a very common question, right? Like, I think people should ask this question: why am I paying for the software if I now have these amazing models that can code a front end system or a full system for me?
Yeah.
Right. Like,
it's a good question, right? Lovable or there's a million, Chat, GPT or Copilot or whatever, right? Yeah. I think I want to hear this.
It's bonkers. I mean, they called this release, this inflection point last month, the SaaS apocalypse. We didn't notice it because NVIDIA was boosting up the economy, but we shed, as the US economy shed, $1 trillion of value in a week. Companies like Palo Alto Networks, any basic software company, Zillow, these sorts of companies all cratered when this new model was released, because people realized, like, wow, all these companies just building UIs and building data stores are totally screwed. they're going to get replaced by a million copycats within weeks, because now I can just ask an AI model, hey, build me a, use a public MLS API and build me a Zillow that I can use for free to run my real estate practice.
Oh my God.
And that is months away. That's not years away at this point. And so, it really, for me, the first thing I did with Cowork is I uploaded 100 leases and I asked it to go pull 100 different values from each lease, and it broke. And I was like, okay, great. Still in business. That's great. But it did cause me to think, what are we building at Infersoft that's going to be a moat? What's going to enable us to provide value? What can we do for our clients that they're not going to be able to do themselves? And what we kind of landed on in the past 2-3 weeks of just talking to people and really asking ourselves, what have we built that's really amazing and robust and relevant in this world of foundational model companies? And so what Infersoft is, as I mentioned, decision layer for oil and gas. But what does that actually mean? When you buy Infersoft credits and get access to the platform, what do you actually get from us? Well, we sit in between the frontier models and your actual business. So you don't have to worry about the following: standing up machine learning infrastructure, a lot of testing. We call it validation data sets in the ML world, but you need thousands of labeled documents, millions of labeled documents. We have a billion data set that we run new models through, testing those new models to say, hey, can we trust this new model? And if you can, then we add it to our platform and you can use that model. We built the infrastructure to run 150 million pages a month, which I think is about adding 2 zeros off of our next competitor. If they're watching this and they want to add in the comments, that's not right, please do. But from what I've seen from their documentation, they're doing thousands or tens of thousands, not hundreds of millions. And then prompt design and agentic system, building agents with specific guardrails, this sort of stuff. That's where we spend our time, and that's the value. And, some companies are trying to build it themselves, but I think someone mentioned some super major, they have a team of 4 MLEs, each getting paid $400K. So whatever that comes out to, 1.6 a year for this team. And just that team accidentally did a job and they spent $500,000 in an afternoon by leaving something running, right? So I think it can get really pricey, especially if it's not your bread and butter. I was joking with Jeremy. I was like, it's not like I'm like, hey, I need power for my computer, I'm going to go drill a well. Like, I don't know anything about drilling a well.
I'm going to go set up a data center. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. But when I hear people saying like, we're just going to do it ourselves, I'm kind of like, okay, like there's a lot you can do. You can do your own UI. You can do a lot of your own prompting, but ML infrastructure, security, and validation testing on the latest and greatest models and agentic AI architecture framework building is actually really hard. And, that's where our team has excelled as a bunch of former Google folks and that sort of stuff. So it's been fun.
Yeah. Corey, I want to jump in real quick. Extreme complexity on the back end and simplicity on the front end. I mean, that's really what Google did first, right? You don't think about where it's going to build these pipelines and find this data and bring it back and be better than any other search engine. It just does it. And that truly is the name of the game for AI too, is you can build something with the front end that's good, but is the data right? Is it actually like moving at a speed that works? Is it cost effective? And it's not just 4 resources at $400K. It's the technology that they have to build and the support and maintenance and the new requests that come from the business and what does that cost to add another resource that understands the production space, reservoir engineering. To me, there are some things for sure that the smart oil and gas companies can do themselves, even with AI, but it's a dangerous game, man. This is not like building your own dashboards. You'll fall behind very quickly.
Yep.
Only got a couple minutes. Sorry, Corey, go ahead, man.
No, I was just going to say, I think what I appreciate about this podcast is it could go 3 hours. And I think a lot of listeners, whether they would voice it or not, would totally tune into this because this type of topic is everything they're hearing every day.
Yep.
Their friends talk about it. The world's talking about it, but we're still in that point with that there's those few that know a lot more than others in this, and others know they need to get on the train, but it's that like internal thing that no one wants to like come out and say like how much they're willing to learn it or how much do they do. Are they going to go play like I mean, this is a lot of knowledge that's dropped here, right? And I think this was just super awesome that it could go for another while. But like you said, Jeremy, I know we were gonna wrap it up, but yeah, this is, we could pick the mind all day of Whit.
Well,
There's no doubt.
I love hanging out with Whit, man. Because I didn't know much about AI. I still don't, but I learn something every time I talk to him since he's from that world. And maybe he learned something from me about oil and gas and some of the specifics and the crazy old school workflows that some companies still deploy. But I just enjoy it because it's like, this isn't something that's like nice to know about. Like, we have to know about this shit. And I'm saying this to everybody in the industry. It's coming, right? This is not going away. Like, just like the internet, if you were ignoring it and you didn't get an email address until 2004, you probably fell behind. And it's the same threats that are out there right now. I'm not trying to scare people, but like, now is the time to level up and understand AI and understand the differences in being what you're being in what you're being pitched, and what these technologies can actually do. And honestly, whether it's Infersoft or somebody else, push them to prove it. Push them to do a proof of concept and prove it. Like, give them a real world challenge and say, do this, take these documents and show me how it works. Don't buy something without doing that. 100%. Sorry, Wade, if that goes against your sales model, but truth be told, that's the game. You have to test it first. Show me. And oil and gas, that fits perfectly with oil and gas because everyone in oil and gas is from Missouri. Now, got to pivot real quick to our big swing portion of the podcast. Corey, big news coming out of Boston today. Jason Tatum is returning. And the Celtics, tonight? I think so. I think he's playing tonight. I hope he comes off the bench, gets a big applause against the Dallas Mavericks. What's up? Of course, you guys cannot catch a break right now. Anyways, I did put a little bit of money on Celtics futures last night, as I have throughout the season. They're now the favorites in the East. Their odds are right up there with San Antonio, behind OKC in the NBA. My big swing, my bold prediction right now, Celtics getting that chip this year.
Yeah, I would fade that one pretty hard, just because I don't know who will be out of the West. I'm still very bullish on whether it's OKC or Wemby in San Antonio. I was bullish on that in Seattle against New England for the Super Bowl. Like I said, 2 weeks before it happened, it just kind of whoever won between LA and Seattle, it just kind of felt the way it needed to be. I think that's the same course we're on. But I'm happy for Tatum and these athletes that have had some pretty big injuries, in the last year, right? Kyrie, him, Halliburton, right? To see them bounce back like this and come back in the game with it. And, Jaylen Brown and all those guys, right? They've been doing everything they can. Shout out to Pritchard. I love Pritchard.
Oh, my God, yeah.
I think it's just going to light that spark, right? When you get that type of player back, that type of captain back in. Obviously, the Boston community is going to be pretty stoked about it. But, yeah, no, I would still put my future on the West.
Thanks, Corey. I really appreciate that. I would say,
told you I was dominated. I was outnumbered on this call, but
but okay, fine. Then would you place a bet on the Celtics futures to win the East?
I would probably sprinkle a little bit now because the value's there.
Yeah.
If you tell me Tatum comes out and over the next week, it's like he's back to Tatum, those odds are going to diminish, right? Against a couple others, but I think there's still a lot there for the East to be taken with it, right? Where the West, it really is going to come down to OKC and San Antonio.
Feels like it, but only one team can come out of the West. Sorry, Whit, this is a sports gambling podcast too. Maybe we didn't tell you that.
Let me know where to place the bet.
But we can pivot to we can pivot to the big swing about Whit though.
We will. I also want to pat myself on the back for this right now. Went on to Robinhood on Sunday of this week, bought some USO call options. Heard we were going to war. Thought that oil prices might go up. They have. I made a little bit of money this week, Corey, on USO call options. It's been a fun week, and I am not like a day trader. I don't gamble with this sort of stuff. It was just this just makes too much sense, and I've closed them all out, and we going to Sizzler tonight.
I'm going to the Sizzler.
Nice.
Well, the smartest thing for you wasn't rolling the dice. Every squirrel can find, that nut. But
That's true.
I would say the smart thing was you took the chips off the table.
Always do. Always
You're
do.
bound to lose that if you kept it there.
You
So,
know I do that.
good
You know
on
I
you.
do that. I'm not greedy. I'm too old
That's
to be
good.
greedy, man. I want to go a big prediction from you, Whit. What does Infersoft look like in 5 years? And 5 years might be too long because you talk in terms of like hours, weeks, and days for how the AI game is evolving and changing. What does your company look like in 5 years?
It's a really good question. You know, I think that so I love history, and looking at the predictions made in 93 to 2005, like tons of confidence statements were made by people about the internet, and almost all of them were wrong, right?
Oh,
So I put a big discount on my forecasting ability. I try to be super flexible and adaptable rather than trying to predict exactly how a structure will play out. So for me, it's really just really satisfied customers, and hopefully a lot of them, who are confidently running models in every aspect of their jobs that they don't personally enjoy, so that they can free up more time to work on the human problems that they need to actually focus on, the communication, the deep analysis, that sort of stuff. So, for me, I think given the team we brought together, given the partners we have, given the support we have from Funk Futures, I think we're on track to 5 years from now have a lot of very happy, very successful customers who essentially integrated AI into their workflows on a daily
love it.
basis.
I love it. I love it. And I would say lame. I wish you put a number on it. But here's one. And Corey, I want you to think about this too. I want you to give some sort of big swing, whether it's a bet that you're placing right now or something you're bullish on. We're coming into March. We got March Madness. I'm curious, Whit, is it just oil and gas, or do you think when we're talking 3 to 5 years from now, you guys are attacking other industries? And if so, what's your bet on the next industry you guys go after, if you do?
Sure. Yeah. Yes, I'll give you a bet. We did 250 million pages in the past 4 months.
Okay.
I would be shocked if in 5 years we weren't sitting at that, I want to say 50 to 100 billion pages processed. That's really, that would be my big bet, aiming higher than my gut would tell me. In terms of the industry question, there's so much minutia of mapping out things for an agent to follow
Yeah.
that we're just getting started. We're just in land, and we want to start working on some production stuff. We want to work on legal. We want to work with, marketplaces to help them find the right buyers. That was my biggest surprise coming to this industry, is that only 7% of acreage sales and purchases happen on exchanges. The rest are just word of the mouth.
Yep.
Go to the
Yep.
petroleum club in Midland, and somebody's going to stand up and talk about their deal, and I'm sitting there like, this guy's taking 10 minutes to tell 20 people who probably don't want to buy his stuff about the stuff he's trying to sell, and that's just crazy to me. It's super inefficient. So I'd really like to see a world where these transactions, our energy industry can become more efficient in executing these transactions, and then once you decide to make a purchase or decide to acquire a company, it doesn't take 12 months to seal that deal and integrate it into your system. So
No
that's
doubt.
really where we're going, is trying to make, and I think there's a really nice patriotic ring to it as well, because it's going to, essentially help us produce energy more efficiently,
Yep.
with less banker fees, and, make us be in a stronger position as a country as well. So.
Love it. Corey?
I'd say I loved your answer, even though you thought it was lame and dodging it, and that's fair to a degree. But a high degree is, especially being early on with Infersoft, is putting the customers first.
Yep.
My bet, back to how people all hear AI, but they're all scared of it because they don't know it. And it's kind of like you can either embrace it because we're all learning it together. You can have people sell you that type of software because it's the right buzzword to sell you on, and they can put lipstick on a pig, and maybe you buy it because you didn't do your homework or due diligence or proof of concept, as you were saying, Jeremy. I think you guys are in a position to bring them along with this and make them feel comfortable with it, through your ability and your knowledge, your pricing structure with it, and obviously just the understanding from the background you and your team come from. And I think kind of that satisfaction to people and easing it a bit, bringing it along, while it may not be voiced time and time again, probably is going to be deep down inside, whether it's voiced or not from people. So I'd say don't discount that. And then I think as you do that, the chips will fall to the right side of the table. And everybody's going to feel, that it was the right win-win through all of that. So
and Corey knows, like I would just say, like one of the things, Corey's history at Red Dog, which then became Energy Link, and eventually Inveris. You guys really focused on your, what is it, the NPS? The satisfaction score. What is the acronym for that?
Net Promoter Score.
Net Promoter Score. You guys were off the charts. And that, I remember when you told me that, and it was the least surprising thing ever, because the focus truly was on the support of the customer. And frankly, I think a lot of people were sad that you got acquired just because they knew, all right, now you're part of a bigger machine and that NPS is probably going to go down. I think that it'll be interesting to follow Infersoft's NPS as well, if it can follow the same trajectory as an Energy Link, a Red Dog, and Energy Payables, a Funk Futures, all the best companies out there. Where can people find you, man? Website, LinkedIn, somebody wants to reach out to you, get more information on what you're doing, talk to you about the future of AI. Where can they find Whit Blodgett and Infersoft?
Yeah, definitely. So you can go to our website. It's Infersoft, INFER, and then SOFT.com. You can drop us a note there, or on LinkedIn. Just type in my name, Whit Blodgett, and I'll pop up and shoot me a note. Would love to chat about AI or anything, really. So
you might get hit up more than you might think, even beyond like Infersoft. Like it's like, hey, I'll buy a credit. Just to pick your brain for 30 minutes. What's that going to cost me?
You're going to be
give me a cup of coffee and we'll be good.
A professor of AI and oil and gas. Like that, there's a place for that too. Well, swingers, appreciate everybody listening today. Whit Blodgett, the man, Infersoft, true disruption in the AI game within oil and gas. Love this one. Thanks for coming on, Whit.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Sam.
it, Whit.
Right.
Be good.
Yeah. See you guys.